It was an ordinary Thursday afternoon in the lives of Oikawa, Iwaizumi, Hanamaki, and Matsukawa. Oikawa was talking to Maki about the wedding. Iwaizumi zipped on his coffee and Matsukawa just silently watched his friends. "Have you seen his suit yet?" the strawberry blonde male asked. "I haven't. He hasn't seen mine either. You know how women keep their dresses a secret until the day of their wedding? We sort of do the same thing." "Wait, I remember you talked about something like that before, but you really managed to not stick your nose into your fiancé's closet to take a look?" "Why are you so surprised? It's just 2 more days till the wedding anyway, so I can wait." "No way, the Oikawa I know wouldn't be this patient. Iwaizumi, did you see? I haven't seen his suit either. He somehow hasn't tried showing it off." Maki snorted in disbelief. "Oikawa's really growing up, huh?" "Hey, what's that supposed to mean? I'm 24, of course I'm all grown up and mature." "You literally just proved yourself wrong." Matsukawa laughed. His gaze rested on Hanamaki's face, who shot a grin towards his boyfriend's direction. "Well, what about you two? When are you finally getting married?" "Stop trying to change the topic, Trashikawa." "Iwa-chan." "He's right though. So who's going to do what? What's on the list again?" Oikawa said he wanted to go to the hairdresser to get a trim before the wedding. "Yeah, I have an appointment at 6 p.m. Someone has to pick up my shoes for me, cause the store is going to close at 6 p.m. too. The suit needs to get picked up as well. They were altering the size." "Shouldn't you be trying the suit on before we pick it up?" "Nah, it should be fine." "So I assume that Maki and I are going to pick up the suit and Iwaizumi gets the shoes?" Matsukawa shot a glance towards Iwaizumi's direction, who was staring into the black water that filled his cup. "Yeah," Iwaizumi said without looking up from his cup. A worried look crossed Matsukawa's face as he scrunched his eyebrows together. "Anything interesting in that cup?" "Huh? Is there a fly in your coffee, Iwa-chan?" Oikawa tried to catch a glimpse of the insides of Iwaizumi's cup. No, I was just getting lost in my thoughts, I guess. You know, the wedding is real close now and stuff." The side of his eyes sparkled with happiness as he grinned at the ace. "I know you must be excited as heck too." A faint smile formed on Iwaizumi's lips. "Yeah, I'm excited as heck." Saturday, 8 a.m. Iwaizumi stared at his reflection in the mirror. He wore a black suit with a tie, nothing out of the ordinary. He began to wonder what Oikawa would look like when he was going to see him later that day. Probably something weird, a bright-colored blazer or something like that. Standing out was Oikawa's way of living. He didn't like the ordinary, boring clothes everyone else would probably have chosen for their wedding day. Iwaizumi's heart rate picked up at the thought of Oikawa, the man that had been so close to him for so long. The two of them were once naive boys, but now they've grown up into responsible adults. Iwaizumi thought back of the days in Aobajose. His memories of those days were still as vivid as if they were from yesterday. He felt like crying, but instead of crying, he took a shot of whiskey out of a flask to calm his nerves down. 1 p.m. Iwaizumi tiptoed from one foot onto the other as he nervously gazed over the flowers that were in pretty much each and every corner of the room. He knew just how much Oikawa had wanted this wedding to be as small as possible, with only his closest friends and family members around. The setter had picked a wedding venue near Tokyo, located on a hill with big windows and ocean view. Hanamaki and Matsukawa were standing next to Iwaizumi. Each of them were holding a glass of wine in their hands as they complimented the wedding decorations. "It's beautiful," Matsukawa said in a monotone voice, and it must have had sounded as if he was joking to everyone who didn't know him well enough. He wasn't joking. It really is. Oikawa wanted this to be perfect, and I'm glad everything turned out just the way he wanted. Iwaizumi said, unaware of the looks his friends exchanged behind his back. He tried to numb the feeling of growing uneasiness in his body by taking a sip of wine. The ceremony was about to begin, and Oikawa stepped through the door just as the music started to play. Much to everyone's surprise, he wore a black suit with a white shirt and not the bright-colored blazer they all had imagined on him. The only colorful part of his clothing was a purple tie around his neck, a gift he had received from Iwaizumi a while ago. He smiled at his high school friends as the ceremony began. No one had probably noticed the way Oikawa's lips were a little more puffy and darker in shade from kissing his fiancée too much earlier that day. No one but Iwaizumi. After all, those lips were the lips he had been staring at longingly for the past 8 years. The lips that belonged to him, no one else but him. Iwaizumi's eyes scanned over Oikawa's face. He looked so happy his heart began to hurt. Oikawa Toru, take you." Oikawa's voice echoed through the room. His smile was brighter than anything Iwaizumi had ever seen before. It was blinding. It hurt. It hurt so much he barely managed to keep breathing. "Before these witnesses, I pledge to speak the truth to you in love. I promise to honor you and care for you, to cherish and encourage you. I choose you as the person with whom I will spend my life with." Iwaizumi stood in the back of the room and prayed that he would make it through this day without crying. His heart raced and his surroundings started to get blurry. The only thing he could see clearly was Oikawa, and the silver ring on his left hand. Iwaizumi clenched his fists as he remembered that day when he almost kissed Oikawa. He always wondered if the setter felt the same way, but he had never managed to ask him. Iwaizumi regretted it. He regretted that he freaked out just right before the kiss. After all, they had been friends forever, and he was too scared to risk their friendship over a kiss. If he had only asked Oikawa about his feelings, then maybe it would have been Iwaizumi who stood now beside him, speaking his vows instead of listening to the most painful words he had ever heard in his life. But he knew it was too late when he got the invite, so he just hid in the back of the room, trying to make it through the evening without breaking down. I do. Iwaizumi's fingertips began to turn white as he attempted to block out the pain by pressing his fingernails into the palms of his hands. It didn't work, so he excused himself to the bathroom to take another shot of whiskey right out of the flask. There was a buffet after the ceremony, and much later that day they started playing music to celebrate the freshly wedded couple. Everyone had fun. Everyone except Iwaizumi, who was on the verge of tears most of the time. And whenever someone asked about the tears in his eyes, he just smiled, saying, "I'm just too happy for my best friend." Who would have guessed that he was such a great actor? But oh, he had a hard time to keep his composure. So many thoughts echoed in his head. They were trying to break him apart, trying to make him snap, and the alcohol in his veins was only naturally doing its part in contributing to his mental instability. He had to leave now, or else he was going to blow up this wedding. Iwaizumi waved goodbye to Maki and Matsuen, who decided it was the best to just let him go. They'd check up on him tomorrow. The ace opened the door. The summer breeze was warm and it smelled like flowers. "Iwa-chan, are you leaving already?" Iwaizumi froze stiff at the sound of his best friend's words. He tried to sort out his thoughts, which were all over the place. This was his last chance to get it off of his chest. Iwaizumi slowly turned around to lock eyes with the setter who smiled at him. "Have you ever had feelings for me before?" "Because I've been in love with you for so long, and I still feel the same. I've never been able to forget you, no matter how hard I tried to fall for someone else." Oh, how much he wanted to say those words, how much he wanted to know if it was his fault for messing this up because he had chickened out instead of kissing Oikawa that day. Because if it was his fault, he could just go and drown himself in alcohol and self-pity for eternity. "Yeah, I'm so sorry, I somehow feel like throwing up. I don't want to mess up your party by puking all over the dance floor." But he wasn't going to mess this up and destroy Oikawa's future. After all, he wanted him to be happy, even if it was killing Iwaizumi. "You know, I don't mind cleaning up behind my best friend, though." Best friend, huh? Iwaizumi almost started to laugh. There it was again, that painful feeling in his chest. The pain that drove him insane ever since Oikawa had announced his wedding plans. "I know, but your guests would. I'll call you tomorrow. Have a great night." Iwaizumi smiled as he jumped into the cab, tears dropping as soon as he closed the door. "I love you," Iwaizumi whispered. "I wish you were mine instead. I wish you the best in your marriage."